Hey tea heads, you know, it may surprise you to know that I've been sourcing tea for over 20 years. In fact, that figure just blows my mind. And in all of those years, I like to think that I have managed to source a pinnacle grade version of all of the famous Chinese types of tea out there. There may be a few stragglers, but the famous ones for sure I have found, apart from this one right here. This has been bugging me for years and years and years because this famous Chinese tea is a tea which I have never managed to find that batch, that special batch that really sings to me. I've sampled loads and loads and loads over the years, but I needed to find the one that I felt justified the fame of this tea and justified the price of this tea because it is a very expensive tea. The tea itself is Mengding Huang Ya. So you'll have seen this tea around. It's all over the place. It is, as I said, a very famous tea. It's a yellow tea from China. Let's quickly scope this tea. Season, this is from March 2023. Because this tea is from Sichuan province is warmer and therefore the tea flushes earlier. So you may even, on some years, find Mengding Huang Ya from February, but usually it's March, and this year has been just generally a late harvest all over China. The cultivar on this is the Chunti-Zhong variety, which basically just means the heirloom old bush variety in that area. So if you see sort of Chunti-Zhong, Longjing Chunti-Zhong, or, Zhejiang Chunti-Zhong or Anji Chunti-Zhong, all it just means is the heirloom old bush variety from that area. The origin of this, as I said, is from Mengding Shan. Mengding Mountain is the most historic tea mountain in China. Probably the place where tea was first ever cultivated properly by humans. Sweet dew, also known as Mengding Ganlu, is probably one of the first ever teas to be produced. If you want to know about sweet dew, I'll stick a link in the description below. And actually, our Sweet Dew 2023 should be available when this video comes out, so you may want to check that one out as well. So the origin is from Mengding Shan, very, very historic mountain in Sichuan province of China. The picking on this, it is bud only. So you can see it is definitely bud only. It's going to be probably picked with some leaves, and then they're going to go through a sorting process to remove those leaves. We'll talk about the processing a little bit in a little bit because it is quite labor intensive, and the elevation's around 900 meters. So this is an extremely famous yellow tea from China, and we have never sourced it before. And it has been a source of frustration for me as I taste every year, and we reach deeper into the sort of, into our network and try to find the batch that I really fall in love with. And this year I reached out very early to the same scout who found Bailu Gold for us. In fact, it's probably a little bit of a slightly wrong term for him because he is an absolute tea master, like a proper tea connoisseur. And I said to him, listen, just get me the batch of Mengding Huang Ya. Find me some Mengding Huang Ya that I can really, really swoon over, because in all these years, in all these decades, I have never really found that one that really did it for me. And this was sent to me relatively early, and as is always the case, it was a sort of one taste, fall in love, swoon, buy as much as you possibly can, which is only 5 kilos. So we managed to get this in. Let me talk to you about the process to make this tea, because it is labor intensive. So you're taking the heirloom bushes, you're picking, as I said, it's going to be bud with some fine leaves. So there's going to be an extended sorting period before we even begin. So they're going to pick it, then they're going to be sorting out the small leaves. You'll see occasionally a few sort of of the very fine leaves that are just hugging the bud, that it would be very sort of hard to remove them. But basically it is just bud. So there's going to be a sorting phase, and then it goes through quite a long withering phase. It could be sort of 12 hours withering phase, which is unusual for greens and yellows. And in that time, it's going to, the buds are going to be transforming. They're going to be building up aromatics and oxidizing slightly. So in the same way that would happen with an oolong tea or a white tea. And so you're getting this amplification of aromatics and a slight darkening of the buds. Then the next stage is to do the very famous pan frying and yellowing phase. And I think that the thing that I've noticed in a lot of Mengding Huang Ya is, and it's a theme that continues, and it's probably one of the most commonly written criticisms in my notes of samples of green teas and yellow teas, is too green, too raw. And I think that the process to make a really good yellow tea, especially from Sichuan, where I find that generally, if you think about bamboo saber, Juyeqing, generally they can be very raw, green tasting plants, that you need to do the yellowing process with the right level of dedication and the right level of time. And I feel, and it's only a suspicion from all of the years of experience, because, I can't say this for sure, but I feel like there may be some just shaving off on some of the timelines of this processing for a lot of Mengding Huang Ya to get it to the market, especially in years like this where the harvesting is a bit later, to just get it to the market a bit quicker. So what I'm going to tell you is the proper processing as I know it for Mengding Huang Ya, but I feel that a lot of teas out there may be just sort of shortening it down. So you're having this sorting phase, you're going for a long wither, so they might shorten that wither, for example. Then you go through at least 3 to 4 pan frying. So they're going to pan fry it at around sort of between 250 to 300 degrees Celsius. They'll be pan frying it in various stages. After every pan fry, they'll then wrap the leaves up whilst they're still warm, usually in some sort of paper. They'll wrap it and then they'll leave it, and then they'll go to it every sort of maybe hour, 2 hours, and sort of move the leaves around and then wrap it again. And the leaves during that time are still warm, they're still wet, they're sort of steaming, and so you're getting a yellowing process happening. Some people talk about it as non-enzymatic oxidation. I think that that's very black and white. There's going to be some enzymes still active, especially after the first pan frying phase, and but there's going to be other things happening, right? This whole process of the transformation of the leaf is not just oxidation. There's going to be some oxidation, both enzymatic and non-enzymatic. There's going to be some fermentation, but there's going to be other processes of which I can't give you the science behind, and we need to dive a lot deeper in. But essentially, during this wrapping, sort of steaming process while it's still warm, that the Chinese sort of refer to as reabsorbing its essence, the leaves, or the buds in this case, are yellowing. Then they're removed, they're pan fried again, and then they're yellowed again, probably for another sort of 5-6 hours. And usually that'll happen about 3 times. So you're going to have a long period of at least sort of 15-20 hours. So let's call it a day of pan frying and yellowing. And then after that, they'll pan fry it probably one more time. Then they'll let it they'll spread it out, and they probably will bake it to dry, but bake it very, very gently to not sort of add too much in terms of extra sort of flavor, in terms of Maillard reactions and caramelizations, just a sort of very gentle baking. And so that whole process is going to take a couple of days. And green teas and yellow teas, well, green teas especially, don't usually take that long to make. And I have a feeling that if it doesn't take 2 to 3 days, then you're not going to get the highest quality Mengding Huang Ya, and it's probably just going to be a little bit green. And I think that you can see the look of these leaves. You can see that they have this sort of deep set, muted, like pistachio pale color. It's muted. It's not a vibrant color. So if you see a Mengding Huang Ya that looks very vibrant and green, then I would say that, in my experience, it's less likely to give you the same flavor profile that I'm looking for in a Mengding Huang Ya. Everything's personal, of course. You might be looking for something else. But with yellow teas, what I'm looking for in general are teas that taste different to a green. And whilst greens, for me, always should have a really good level of warmth to them, the warmth in greens tends to be more of a sort of nutty sweetness. When you move it into a yellowed tea, I find that I'm looking for much more of a creamier note. It's lighter, it's smoother, it's creamier. So I'm not looking for greens. You know, just in greens, I'm not looking for any sort of excessive astringency or like excessive freshness. I want warmth, but with yellows, you want that extra warmth and that milkier warmth, and a lightness. So a thick texture and a lightness in its color and a lightness in it's like a light taste. And if you look at flavor wheels in general on the Mayleaf website, you'll see that there are flavor wheels that, you know, you can see it goes all the way up to 10, and it goes from, you know, from 0 to 10 on various different aromatic profiles. And I want to sort of take this opportunity to say that if the wheel is relatively small, that doesn't mean that it's not a tea that is, you know, got an incredible character and quality. It means that it's got a lightness to it. Even though, you know, it's got balance and it's got aromatics, it's got a lightness to it. And I look for that in yellow teas. I want lightness. I wouldn't want a yellow tea with the flavor wheel, you know, right to the edges, because that really wouldn't represent a good yellow tea. I'll probably do a video about flavor charts another time so that you can find out more about my thoughts about how you should read those wheels. But let's dive into this. So we've got our Mengding Huang Ya from the Chunti-Zhong variety. I should say this is 50-plus-year-old tea trees, so probably a lot older, but we'll say 50 years plus. So old, heirloom, old bushes. You know how I feel about that. And if you don't, then you should know that older generally means better. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Warmth. So much warmth. Warm milk. Imagine you just got, you know, it's that comforting late night smell, right? Somebody's making you some hot milk. Warm milk, honey, touch of cinnamon. There's also malt and chocolate, like milk chocolate. So malted chocolate. It's extremely milky. It has none of that greenness. It's been yellowed to its fullness. And if you've ever tasted a yellow tea and thought, well, what's the fuss? There's not that much difference between that and a green tea, and I'm paying a lot more for it. I know what you mean. And that's, you know, and I think that that's exactly the problem that I have, especially with Mengding Huang Ya, because for some reason that Sichuan, I don't know, terroir, when there's that greenness, it really distracts from the impact of this tea. So yeah, malted chocolates, warm milk, honey. I'm getting pralines, so caramelized pecan nuts too. I'm going to be brewing it at 80 degrees, but I'm going to give it a quick rinse. You don't really need to, but I'm just going to give it a quick rinse. The great thing about these flute brewers is you can just pour the water over and it sits below the buds, so it's not brewing. So let's see how it's gonna fare once it's freshened up with some water. And it's exactly what I was hoping for. Still no green. In fact, it's moved into a little bit of starchy. I'm getting like Jerusalem artichokes. Lots of Jerusalem artichokes. Again, the milk, it's in an intensely savory to sweet, milky, warm, aromatic. And as I said, it was one of those, I smelt it and I was like, where have you been all my life? You know, this is the Mengding Huang Ya that I've been imagining and dreaming of. I have nearly pulled the trigger so many times on Mengding Huang Ya, and I've ummed and ahed and looked at the price point and gone, no, I'm not going to do it. Some bolotti beans, mashed down, cooked, starchy. Yeah, absolutely delightful. Check the temperature, we're a bit warm here. I mean, good tea is forgiving. I don't have a rinse bowl, do I? I'm going to drink this rinse. Yep, That's the way it's going to go here. I'm brewing dry style because I just felt like it. So I'm going to have to pay a little bit more attention, which is a good thing. I'm not going to talk tasting notes on the rinse, but it's very promising. Right. How are we doing? 84. We'll go with it. And I'm going to brew this for a relatively long time, especially compared with your sort of classic gong fu timings. With yellow teas and bud teas, I like to brew longer, so around a minute. And I'm brewing in the flute brewer because it is just a great way to really see these buds and how they start to move down. So you can see they're all bunched up at the top, but they are going to start to move down as we go through the infusions. What else can I tell you about Mengding Huang Ya? The yellowing process is called the Menhuang process, and the yellowing process is a process which happens with the other famous yellow teas. The other two famous yellow teas, if you don't know already, are Junshan Yinzhen and Huoshan Huang Ya. So Huoshan Huang Ya and Junshan Yinzhen, we call them Diamond Peak and Amber Mountain. Those are the other two famous yellow teas in China. There are yellow teas being produced in small amounts in other areas probably, but those are the three famous ones. And as I said, yellow tea is the least made tea type. It's the process to make it is extremely arduous. Famously was lost for a few hundred years supposedly, and then rediscovered, this yellowing, wrapping, reabsorbing of its own essence that is famous for yellow teas, was a process that was either lost or basically ignored for quite a few years. You can see the color of this liquor. That's what I'm looking for. This camera is struggling to focus on it, but you can see it is a very light extraction considering the time and the temperature was warmer than I normally would do it. Okay, let's focus on texture. Very thick, soft, clean, and then a ton of amazing mouthfeel that we'll talk about when we get on to mouth finish. Wow, the mouthfeel, the finish is great. From one sip, I can tell you this is a zingy one. Okay, so thick, syrupy, soft. When I say clean, I mean that it leaves a sort of, it has a sort of freshness in the mouth. I don't mean clean in terms of finish or short in terms of finish. Taste. All of those things that I talked about before. The pralines, the candied nuts, the milk, the honey. I'm getting a little bit of fruit. It's like papaya milk. If you've ever had papaya milk before, it's an Asian thing, like melon milk, papaya milk. It has it's milk, but with a light papaya note to it. And I think papaya generally as a fruit has a sort of creamy quality to it. So I'm going to say papaya milk, candied nuts, a touch of those borlotti beans, a touch of the Jerusalem artichoke, so a little bit moving into the starchy, but then a bag full of sweetness in the mouth. Sugar, it's sweet. Reminds me of the sugar, the coarse sugar. I think it's called pearl sugar that you have on Swedish cardamom buns. I think they put them on there. You know what I mean. I think it's on those Swedish buns. The pearl sugar, that sort of rough, coarse sugar. It's that kind of sweetness, rather than like a fruit sweetness. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely sweet. You could say sort of nectar. It's got a nectar quality to it. Color is gorgeous, clean, clear. incredibly bright as well. I'm getting those sweet buns actually. So it's not just the sugar on the buns, but a slight sort of sweet bread quality to it as well. So sweet buns. The starchiness is moving into lotus seeds. Yeah. Lotus seeds, it reminds me a little bit of those cold milk soups that you get when you go to have a dim sum that has the little sago in, and those lotus seeds. If you get a good one, it should have some lotus seeds, it should have other things apart from sago in there. And I know there's a coconut milk version, but if you just imagine it just being sort of a plain milk, that bready quality, again, very light, one of those very light Japanese fluffy loaves. You know, it's not extreme in sort of a yeasty quality, just very light, sweet, bready. Wondrous. There's more going on, but we'll dive into it. But the thing that I love about this tea is that it doesn't exhibit any, not even a whisper of greenness. And that is just gorgeous for a tea like this. That's what I think the yellow tea profile should be. Some people, including myself, have said yellow teas are sort of in between white tea and green tea. It's a bit too simplistic, but it gets a point across, which is you're going for a more thicker and more elegant version of a green tea, and a bit more sort of a fragranced and a bit more of that nutty starchiness of a green tea compared with a lot of white teas. So, I mean, it works as a very broad descriptor, but yellow tea is something different. It is something special. And as I said, if you've experienced a yellow tea and thought, it just tastes kind of like a light green tea, then I would advise you to dive into these very well-made yellow teas, the ones that are the really top grade, and yeah, this is certainly one of them. I'll leave it brew a little bit longer. You can brew this, of course, grandpa style. In fact, I'm going to write that there's probably going to be about 5 infusions on this, but truthfully, the best way to drink this is once you've had a few infusions, is just pour over 80-degree water and let it sit, and then just keep drinking. And when you pour it out, maybe leave a little bit of water and just keep refilling, and brew this grandpa style. If you don't know what grandpa style is, I'll put a link in the description below. Right, I think that's probably enough. So this is the second infusion, and the buds are still hanging out at the top. They will start to move. Color on yellow teas can be deceptive. You can sort of think you've underbrewed it, and then hopefully once you taste it, you go, nope, that has been brewed perfectly. How am I doing? So far, no major spills, so my dry brewing is going well. It just slows me down a little bit. Try dry brewing. It is a good way to just slow. I feel like I've been rushing throughout the day. All of our green teas, coming in thick and fast in the next couple of days. So I've been just like manically trying to sort of get everything ready. So I need this to just chill it out. What else? So much sugar, an incredibly sweet taste. Yeah, papaya. I think, I'm sort of cycling through fruits in my head, and I think papaya is the one. Let me smell the empty cup. Oh, so sweet, but now it's got more of a caramelized quality to it. It really reminds me of Tweal biscuits. Slightly buttery, very, very sweet, and that sweetness is just got a little bit of caramel on it, not too much, and it's got that biscuity quality. Oh, Tweal biscuits. Oh, that makes me hungry, actually. The finish is absolute champion on this tea. Where to start? It has a zingy, slightly lemony quality to it. Nothing sour, like sweet, sweet, sweet lemon balm. Zinginess, tingle all around my tongue. And then it leaves my mouth with this wonderful combination of sugary sweetness and lemon is not the right, but like if you take a lemon and just smell the fragrance of the zest, it's just the oils of the lemon. So it's got nothing acidic to it, but that just still adds a brightness and a lightness to it. So sweet lemon oil and sugar in the mouth. And, talk about this idea of a tea leaving you feeling good in the mouth, which is, the top quality marker of teas, one of the major quality markers of tea, how it leaves your mouth. This is champion, which is why we're calling this tea sovereign bud. It's the king or the queen. It's sovereign bud for sure. Incredible finish. Wow. I'm sort of racing through a little bit because I want to do one more infusion so we can see those buds move around. So please don't drink your yellow tea this quickly. This is a treat tea, an absolute treat tea. It's a pricey tea, but I do think that it is worth every penny, especially, did it, see, spilt it. Especially if you've tried as many Mengding Huang Yas as I have, this is just an absolute glorious moment because, when you've tasted so many and they've not even come close to this really, a lot of them, and then you taste this one, it's like, I will spend the money on this. And that's how I felt when I got it, which is like, I was like, I saw the price and I was like, okay, let's just forget that. We need to get it. Because after all these years, I am not passing up an opportunity to get a Mengding Huang Ya that I love. And now the difficulty in my mind is, how much do I keep for myself? That's the real struggle in my head. Look how they're just hugging the top. They've got so much to go. They're infusing slowly and they're giving so much fragrance. It might be that you could get well over 5. Well, I'm on 3. I mean, you're definitely going to get well over 5. I'll still put 5 on the packaging, but you're probably going to get 8, 9, 10. And as I said, keep brewing. They are just hanging about there. A few of them just starting to drop down a little bit. I'm going to let this one brew because I want to just get the full impact of an extra long brew. Have you tried Mengding Huang Ya? What are your opinions on yellow tea in general? I'd like to know because a lot of people have spent a lot of money on yellow teas, and I'm sure a lot of you absolutely adore them. But I have a suspicion that there are a few that are a little bit sort of, what's the big deal about for some of them? And that I would suggest is oftentimes because that yellowing process has to be done so well by the right people. And I've just realized that my daughter put this on me this morning and I forgot to take it off. So styling a little bracelet courtesy of Ayana. All right, last brew here. Color. Still beautifully bright with a little green tinge to it. Cheers, everybody. Mengding Huang Ya, Sovereign Bud. Just keeps on with exactly the same profile. Honey, milk, papaya, lotus seed, that sweet bread, and the mouthfeel, the aftertaste. If there's any tea, in this sort of realm, like the yellow tea realm or green tea realm, that I would love everybody to try what I mean by an amazing aftertaste, where it just makes you feel like you don't want to eat anything. You want this taste and feeling in your mouth for the whole day. It is incredible. Mengding Huang Ya, available, small batch. Highly recommended if you can. If the bank balance allows for it, I understand it is a pricey tea, but highly recommended if you want to dive into an absolute top-notch yellow. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you're in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the sublime stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.